You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
KC Laboratory, sponsored by Emprise Bank.
I can't believe I'm saying it. It's a live game preview edition of the KC Laboratory presented by Emprise Bank. There's more options to do banking now more than ever, and who you work with is more important than how close they are to your home. Emprise has digital banking that meets you where you are, on your phone, on your computer, even your smartwatch. They're a trusted partner at your fingertips. They are our partner in possible here at KC Sports Network. Absolutely wonderful to work with. If you are looking for any banking needs whatsoever, Emprise Bank, member FDIC, is who you should be talking to. It's been great working with them. I can't believe we are doing a game preview. I mean, and this will probably be a little bit more informal. I can't. I
can. It feels like it's been 18 years since we last did one of these. So I think it's about time.
It's great. That's Maddie Lane. Find him on Twitter at Maddie_KCSN. I like your shirt, Matthew. Monday called. They liked my shirt.
Yeah. We have the same shirt.
Copycat.
You nailed that joke. Yeah, so we got a game preview coming up. Yes, a little bit more informal. It's a preseason game. You know, we're rusty. We're coming off a long break here over the summer too. So we gotta get back into form. And what better way to do that than to talk about the Chicago Bears second, third, and fourth stringers? Let's go, Craig.
I mean, on apparently an awful looking field, but like
No, just turn off the all 22. It gets better.
Oh, okay, good. Hey, before we get into this, I want to put something out there. If you are a subscriber to KCSN, not one of the free subscribers, one of the monthly or yearly subscribers, and you are a part of the KCSN Discord, which you should be if you are, because it's a great community, lots of stuff in there for everybody. It's not just football talk, it's a little bit of everything. Go there tomorrow. That will be August 11th. Go there. There will be a new channel created for the sole purpose of giving away a couple of tickets to the Chiefs' first preseason game, donated so graciously by another subscriber, Kyle Carter. He's been so kind to donate them for this purpose. We are just asking you to go there. There will be instructions there. If you are not a subscriber, get on that. We're giving away free tickets in the KCSN Discord. So get in on that. You can do that $5 a month, $30 a year, all kinds of content, all kinds of stuff that you're getting with that, and also a chance to win some Chiefs preseason tickets. So get in on that. Once again, we really thank Kyle Carter for doing that. Get in on the Discord, see the new channel, get going on that.
Wonderfully done, Craig. We're not going to talk about the third and fourth stringers of the Bears. This is probably going to be a little bit more informal of a game preview. Normally we have a little bit more structure to this, but we're not operating with our traditional rundown. We're just going to kind of, I don't know. We just kind of want to freestyle it a little bit here.
What rundown?
Exactly. We don't do very many rundowns very often. We do typically for the game previews. You guys. Yes, we do.
Okay.
You forgot.
I just never opened it.
It's been 15 years.
It's been 15 years. But we're going to talk a little bit about the preseason game, some of the things that we want confirmed. I think that's one of the things is you want some confirmation of some of the things and some of the indications that you've been able to get to this point with training camp. And it's going up against another opponent, someone that's not you, someone that doesn't know all your tendencies, or it's nice. It's nice to get a look against a team that's not yours. Craig's right, though. I think the most important thing is avoiding injury, and the hellscape that is Chicago, the Bears Stadium is, Soldier Field is definitely worth talking about here, because Cairo Santos has to go to just run down, fields to try to mimic the conditions of Soldier Field. I'm just hoping off the top, nobody gets hurt.
Please. Just please. That's it. I'm sorry, but when your kicker is having to go to random fields in the middle of, random high school fields that aren't taken care of, it's not just, I'm going to go to any high school and start practicing. Have to go to specific ones that aren't taken care of to get it just speaks volumes to the grounds crew that the Kansas City Chiefs have, because that grass is just lush all the time. I will pander to the audience there, but yeah, get in, don't get hurt. Honestly, when you guys heard that, I'll just throw this back out there. When you guys heard that, was your immediate reaction, don't play any of the starters? Because
100%.
it was for me. I'm I don't want those guys on the field again. Maddie, what was your reaction to that?
Yeah, I'm still picking this information up as we're going now. So this is relatively new to me.
What?
We're opening a game preview talking about the way the field is kept. We're getting live football for the first time in months, and we're spending 10 minutes talking about how they grow their grass, what kind of water they use, what color.
They don't. That's the problem.
This is how we're opening the first game preview. Okay, yeah, you know what? We might as well just not play any starters. Keep the second stringers off too. Let's just match the field conditions. Let's only play the reserves of the reserves. Nobody that's going to make the 53 should play in this particular game, because we are starting this bad boy off on a heater.
Do we think Patrick Mahomes plays?
Yes.
Yes or no, Maddie?
Yes.
Yeah, I think he gets a drive.
I think he does too.
Yeah, I think Andy's not going to change. Andy's not going to change it because of this. Andy's not going to change what he would normally do. So go back and look at what he did last year. Figure out what it looks like. That's what you're going to get. You're going to get one drive of Patrick Mahomes, 3 and out, 12 plays, whatever it may be. You're getting one drive from Patrick Mahomes, whether he throws the ball 12 times or 0 times. That's what's going to come out of this game.
I think it's going to be hey, Patrick, anytime anyone comes near you, just throw the ball away immediately. We're good. They're going to hand the ball off to Clyde. They're going to throw a slant route, and then they're just going to call it good.
Yeah, they're definitely going to do that. And Andy, just to prepare you and the lead up to it, is going to tell you that Patrick Mahomes might play for a half. He's not going to play for a half. Might play for a quarter. He's not going to play for a quarter. Don't listen to Andy. He does this every year. He's going to play for a drive. Then we're going to get back into, it's going to be Henny time, and it's going to be the backups. And I mean, let's move right into that. I'm excited to see the backups. I'm excited for the second and third string. I think this is a very fun group. It's a lot of rookies. It's a lot of young players. I'm very curious to see how some of these guys look when they get pads on, when they can actually hit and they can run through guys. It's not trying to go half speed. I am very excited to watch every single one of these rookies, a lot of these new additions. There's just so much about this roster that we only know from training camp, from pressers, from what the limited stuff from OTAs that we've seen. This is our first real look at it. And I'm excited, even if it's vanilla scheme, vanilla everything, I don't care. I'm excited to watch these guys move, see how they execute things, because it's a lot more exciting this year that the roster is not so established. You can see guys maybe climb the ladder a little bit or fall down the ladder a little bit. So I think these games maybe mean a little more than they have in previous years.
Yeah, let's start this show 9 minutes into it, guys. Here we go. I want to ask this question off the top. Craig mentioned the rookies. We're all geeked about the rookies since the Chiefs drafted them back in April, since we were sitting at Kingdom Bar and Grill celebrating the Maddie draft of all Maddie drafts. We've been really looking forward to getting this opportunity this weekend. So I want us all to go around and pick one singular rookie that you are most excited to watch. Matthew, you get the first crack.
The cornerback room. I'm interested to see which singular rookie of the entire group, which rookie rises to the top. Yeah, whichever one rises to the top, whichever rookie comes out and plays the best is the one that I am most looking forward to seeing. Is which one of Trent McDuffie, Josh Williams, Dizzy Johnson, which one of these guys rises to the top and showcases that he deserves to be there? Which one of these cornerbacks shows like he should be a starter? Is it Trent McDuffie, who is coming off a banger of a week of practice? I mean, he's been absolutely phenomenal this past week of training camp from what we've seen. Is he going to carry that momentum into the game? Potentially. Is it going to be Joshua Williams, who kind of earned these early on starting cornerback reps? And then it looked like he's faced not necessarily any downward trend in play, but a few more challenges. He's looked a little bit more like a rookie as camp's gone on. Is he going to rebound now that it's getting into facing not the same guy that he sees every single day over and over again? Is all of a sudden his length and his athleticism and his physicality going to show up, and he's going to come out and be, look like he did early on in camp and surprise everybody else? Or is Dizzy Johnson going to come in here and be the guy that really jumps out? Jalen Watson, like which one of these corners is going to come out and be the guy that we are talking about from the secondary come Monday morning?
I love
Craig,
it.
you're up.
I absolutely love it. My one guy is the wide receiver room. No, it's going to be Sky Moore. I want to see Sky Moore against I want to see Sky Moore against
He's the coward? You picked half the draft class.
And?
Yeah.
I said
Sky Moore is super interesting because we see what he's doing against good Chiefs corners. He should produce based on what we've seen in training camp so far. He should be able to do the things that we've seen on the field. Now he's probably going to play, probably through the first quarter, maybe a little bit into the second quarter. He's going to get some reps with Chad Henne here, and they're going to get him a bunch of reps, a bunch of routes, things like that. I want to see lots of targets for Sky Moore because he's going to be playing against guys that are frankly probably going to be a tier down from what he's been seeing, especially as they get into that second quarter there. We could see a massive Sky Moore stat line in the first half if they target him, if they give him those volume targets, those things that we've seen in training camp so far. He just looks explosive, easy separation. He looks to be, hauling the ball in over guys, despite his size, lots of, pulling away from guys when he's got the ball. And that's L'Jarius Sneed and Trent McDuffie. Those are guys that are good football players. Now what's he going to do against the second teams? I want to see him make the Bears second teamers look like Bears second teamers. I want to see that click. I want to see how that looks on the field because, man, if that happens, I hope you had your fantasy drafts already. You got Sky Moore because he's going to just shoot up boards with some visible reps on the field this week.
I'm going to get to mine real in a second here, but just like Craig, your shirt looks great. Maddie, your shirt looks great. Y'all know my shirt looks great. Charlie Hustle, newest partner here at KC Sports Network. They have loaded us up with some wonderful t-shirts. They have a whole Arrowhead collection. Go check them out. They're great. And I mean, these are my favorite shirts in the world. I have several Charlie Hustle shirts in my closet right now. So, and some sweatshirts as well. So, yeah, make sure you're checking them out because they're wonderful. Speaking of Hustle, I am most curious in Brian Cook. Brian Cook has had the quietest preseason of all of the Chiefs rookies. Like even Leo Chanel. Like if I wasn't a coward like Maddie, I probably would have done like a Leo Chanel, like Brian Cook hybrid, would have found a way to like clump them together.
You're not creative enough. It's okay.
Yeah, no, that's true. I have no idea how I'm still here, but I am going to go with Brian Cook because it's been such a quiet process for him. And like, there's some stuff like I think Dave Merritt kind of mentioned he's been kind of one of, if not the leader of that of the rookies. Like he's been a kind of a guy that has been, maybe a little bit behind the scenes, one of those high character football players that kind of keeps things together a little bit. There's some high praise for Brian Cook, but like on the field, what we've seen of him, like when me and Craig were out at training camp, it wasn't the prettiest. Watching him try to do the slot drop cover 2 look that the Chiefs are rotating their safeties into a cover 2 look, and like the spacing was kind of awkward, and Brian Cook definitely had a very large role in that. But I'm excited to watch that very large man get around and play on the football field just to kind of see, his instincts, see him hit a little bit. Cause, one of the strengths of him is, his ability to tackle, one of his, that's one of the traits that he hangs his hat on. We haven't got to see that. That's not, some of these settings aren't necessarily the things that are going to be, the best for him. So let's get a look at what Brian Cook looks like against other teams, and I'm sure he's going to be a guy that plays a lot of reps when they play the Bears.
And one thing with like the rookies that I did want to go back to, and this probably goes mostly for Trent McDuffie at the quarterback
I thought you were going to
spot,
say all the rookies. Sorry.
or Sky Moore. I've thrown George Karlaftis in here too. When you have rookies that you're expecting to step in and perform well early on for a season, these guys are kind of not given roster spots, but early on they have earned their roster spot. You want them to look different on the football field when they get out there deep into the second quarter or the third quarter. Like, you don't want to have to be sitting there watching and trying to determine, is that 24 playing wide receiver? But who's kidding? We're going to know where Sky Moore is. It's a great number choice. You'll always know where he is. But you don't want to have to ask, who's that guy? When you're talking about the first preseason game as you get deeper into the game. So these rookies, McDuffie, Sky Moore, Karlaftis, those guys, you want to be able to tell just by quickly glancing at the TV, just based on how they move, how they're playing versus these other second and third stringers. Like, that is one area that I do think preseason that you can kind of pick up on. Guys that should play early on, that you should be expecting to play early on during the regular season, be a contributor. They will look different in the preseason. Maybe not always perfect. They're not going to come out and play perfect, but they will just look different. That's why I think I had to go with somebody like a Trent McDuffie would be my lead candidate, but just in case another corner jumps in, I had to cover myself. Sky Moore, Karlaftis, like, there's your things to kind of what matters in a preseason game, how these guys move, how they move compared to other players out there. That's something to keep an eye on, I think.
If George Karlaftis racks up a whole bunch of pressures against the second team offensive line, you got to get excited. You do. I mean, because that's what he should do. If Isaiah Pacheco puts up 80 yards rushing, and a couple of catches, get excited. Like, those are the things that you should be looking for. Yeah, doesn't mean a whole lot. Again, vanilla scheme, everything like that, but executing the assignment and looking good while doing it, for the rookies, that's important.
Speaking of the Bears' second team O-line, they might as well just take Tevin Jenkins on the plane home with them. Wouldn't hate that. Thanks to everybody watching right now. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button. Tell us who you are excited to watch in the first preseason game. Just all those things, those kind of things help support our channel, help support what we're doing here at KCSN. If you wanted to leave a 5-star review on iTunes or on Apple Podcasts, that wouldn't suck. Thank you everyone supporting and watching it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. I want to talk next about the veteran that you guys think that can help themselves the most. And I know it's kind of relative, there's only so much these guys can be able to do, but I do think some good performances in some preseason games can possibly help some of these guys elevate themselves. Matthew, give me a veteran that you think can help themselves the most in this preseason game.
It is kind of hard. The way the Chiefs roster is set up, a lot of your position battles are kind of between younger guys, between rookies. So I don't know if I can identify that many veterans that I think will play a lot of snaps that could really do a lot for their standing on the team. So this guy's technically a veteran, even though he hasn't played a snap in the NFL yet. Malik Herring, I think, is a guy that he's now entering. I believe this is his second year. He didn't get a play last year. By all intents and purposes, during OTAs, he looked really good this past season. At training camp, there's some flashes of him here and there, you showcasing some quickness and good hand usage. The Chiefs are going to be not desperate, but they are looking for some interior defensive line depth. They just brought in Danny Shelton. He was coming in. They brought in Taylor Stallworth. Like, they're trying to bring some guys in to be depth there, but I don't know if you're locking anyone into a roster spot. So that seems kind of open. Herring, who can play a little bit of defensive end, who then can kick inside and be this sub-package rusher on the inside. I think he's a guy that if he comes out and has a monster preseason, he could make a good push kind of for that final defensive line, defensive end tackle hybrid spot.
My guy is Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones needs to play well in the preseason to make this roster, I think.
Love it.
I think that if he shows up and he looks really good, even if he's running against 2s and 3s, if he shows up and he looks really good, I think he can make himself on the roster. I think that running back room is enough unsettled at this point. I think they like Pacheco. They like McKinnon. They like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They like Derek Gore. There's a lot of guys like that they do like. And I think they're going to land a guy on a practice squad. If I had to guess, it would be Gore right now. But Ronald Jones can make that life a lot more difficult on this staff, on this front office, by playing really well. Conversely, if he does not show out, if he does not look particularly good, even if he looks just fine, I don't know that he makes this roster, because there's too many young guys, too many guys that I think they want to hang their hats on. So I think this is a very important game for Ronald Jones, not just this one, but the rest of them that he's going to get to play in as well. I think they're extremely important, maybe for him more than arguably any other veteran that they have, because he is so on the bubble in a room that is so cloudy right now.
You talk about Brian Cook as a guy that maybe in a real game setting helps more than others. I think that's the same for Ronald Jones, because some of his skill sets don't really get to, show up in camp. There's not a lot of live periods. He's not getting to, run the ball against real live contact, which I don't know if I don't know if that's entirely a compliment. Like, there's some areas of concern in the passing game, areas of concern in pass protection. As a runner of the football, might wind up being the best one of them in this. He's got the ability to be the best runner of the football.
I would not be shocked. Absolutely would not be shocked if we got out of preseason and we all thought that. I really would not be shocked.
I'm gonna go with DiCaprio Boodle here. I have a few, I think there's several guys, but I want to save it for, I think these guys could potentially be options for one of the next questions I want to ask you guys here. But DiCaprio Boodle's kind of set himself up pretty well, I think. It looks like, by all indications, he's getting a lot of opportunities on special teams with the first team special teams. He's getting, believe the backup reps in the nickel wasn't even, I think Craig, you even mentioned they weren't moving Trent McDuffie inside. They were keeping DiCaprio Boodle there. So, this is a guy that's very firmly put himself on the bubble. I think he's very much in contention for a 53-man roster spot, which is awesome. It's great to see. But I think he's a guy with very thin margin for error, because if the Chiefs are going to have to get a little bit creative, he might be a guy that kind of winds up on the chopping block. So I think every opportunity that he gets out there is going to matter. And if not, I think this is a really big chance for him, to make another football team, because I think it's going to be very close for him. But he's got to be on point from Jump Street here. And I think this first game is going to be an opportunity for him to do that.
So out of these three, who do we think is the most likely to make the 53-man roster and the least likely out of these three? And I'll go first. I think Boodle's almost a lock to make it. I haven't seen much competition for nickel cornerback too from the Chiefs at camp right now. Like, there's not anybody else that's getting those same reps. Anytime you see Chad or the second team defense working, it's always Boodle in the slot. You lost Tyrann Mathieu, who gave you this de facto second slot defender if you needed it. Not that Justin Reed or Juan Thornhill haven't played that role a little bit, but they're not the same type of man coverage out of the slot defender you've seen. It's like, I have Boodle as all but a lock to make it, just because of the versatility to play a little safety, to play as that second team nickel. So I think he's the safest. I'm going to go with Ronald Jones as being the least likely to make it for one simple reason. I've watched the Chiefs, and this is beyond more than just Andy Reid. This goes like 2 decades back. Good running performances in the preseason don't matter. Just good running back performances in the preseason don't matter for any team, but especially the Chiefs. So no matter how good Ronald Jones is in these games, I still think it comes down to his utility to this running back room is by far the least out of everybody that's there. He would have to be so far and above better than everybody else as a runner to make this roster. While he might be the best runner, is he far and away the best runner? I don't know. So he's just going to be my least likely, with Boodle as my most likely.
You think Malik Herring has a better chance of making this team?
Yes.
Malik Herring over Joshua Kaindoh in your scenario, I'm assuming.
It depends on how they want to
6 defensive ends.
It depends on how you want to slice it up, right? Like, what are you doing with your split for defensive end, defensive tackles? But yes, as of right now, I think that he's got a slightly better chance than Ronald Jones does to make it. The one holdup is bringing in Danny Shelton gives you technically a backup a backup nose tackle. Tershawn Wharton's clearly going to be the backup 3 tech. Malik Herring would be a little bit of a bonus. He's not going to play nose at all. He's a pass rushing sub front guy. I think he at least brings a little something that other guys besides him don't after those first four. I don't know if Ronald Jones will do the same at the running back spot.
The only pushback I have is I think the Chiefs have a plan for Ronald Jones. And like they gave him a little bit of real money to be here. And that's my only like hesitancy is just, he's not a complete vet minimum deal. It just feels like they have they probably have a plan or a need specifically for him.
Ball out and trade him. We've seen
Wasn't
him do
it
that
like
before.
So they can add to the
50,000 though?
They have
I thought
like
it was pretty low.
They have like 35 draft picks next year. What's another one? I mean, the draft is in KC, so that could be a lot of fun. All right, so next question for you guys. I want to know the veteran that's going to play deeper in the game than some people might think.
Ooh. Does anybody have one off the top of your? If you thought of this, you can go first.
Yeah, no,
it's to ponder.
You know what? I'm wondering if Colin Saunders isn't playing all the way into the fourth quarter, and that may not surprise some people, but it's a third round.
Is that
pick.
Unexpected?
No, I know it's a little iffy here, but I think it will surprise some people, and it'll be pretty telling if Colin Saunders is playing deep into the fourth quarter. The Chiefs just signed Danny Shelton because they don't really have a great one-tech run-stopping option behind Derek Nottie. They play pretty light with Tershawn Wharton, who is a lock to make this football team. There's 3 clear-cut, locked-in defensive tackles. The fourth one, you gotta look pretty hard at what this team's going to do along the interior. I don't think Colin Saunders is a great one-tech, a great one-stuffing run tech. I think that's why Danny Shelton's here. Add some girth to that defensive line, especially since you're getting cute with Tershawn. I mean, cute, not the right word, especially just with Tershawn Wharton in the mix there. You've got to find somebody to really be able to play the interior. I think Colin Saunders' days are numbered here, if I'm being honest, in Kansas. I think his time in Kansas City, it could be coming up. And I think the Danny Shelton sign was a clear indication of that. I think he's playing for a job, but I think he's playing for a job potentially somewhere else. And so, I think he's going to get a lot of playing time this week, and I think he's going to get a lot of playing time in the preseason.
I do want to say this. I don't think that the Danny Shelton signing is going to make it onto the field this weekend. That there is so little time. So
for sure.
If they have to make a move at interior defensive line, if they are clearing a spot, like let's say Taylor Stallworth isn't on this team come into this weekend, Colin Saunders almost by default is going to end up playing a lot of reps just because there's from a body's perspective. So I don't necessarily disagree with a lot of what you said, but I'm going to wait just like a half beat on Colin to see the other games that are coming up here after Danny Shelton is a little more integrated into this.
Do you have a guy that you think is going to play deeper?
Yeah, a veteran guy, Velus Jones Jr. No, I had to do that for my guy there. I'm gonna say Darian Kennard, not a veteran, but a guy that I think is going to play pretty deep into this because I think they're going to want to get him a lot of reps. We've seen this before with young offensive linemen. I know we're trying to do veterans here, but I think that's one that people will be surprised about because I think people have seen him kind of pushing a little bit there, upper second team guy that you're pretty sure is making the roster, not a guy that you're going to look at and go, hey, that guy, is going to be playing deep into the fourth quarter, but I'm not going to be shocked if they just want to see him not just at right tackle, but at left tackle. Like he might be getting some left tackle reps late in this game. So I think we're going to see a lot of Darian Kennard. I'm excited to see Darian Kennard. I'm excited to watch him kind of push guys around. Kent talked about guys that, are going to come alive a little bit in the game setting. I think he's a guy that definitely, is more suited to that, actually able to hit somebody, actually be able to lean on somebody in a way that he wants to and play the physical style that he wants to instead of these one-on-one reps where, guys are in space and he's having to cover all of this. So I think Kennard's going to play almost all the way through the game, and we might see him at left and right tackle.
I was going to go with Ronald Jones, actually, but since we talked about it, I'm going to skip that one. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Ronald Jones taking mid-fourth quarter carries. I think that's where he is on the depth chart, which kind of goes to my latter point that I don't think he's a very safe roster spot. But to Lonnie Johnson, I think there was a little bit of fanfare when he was signed, and because it made a lot of sense to be a Charvarius Ward replacement, and his skill set fits what Steve Spagnuolo likes, and you could just see how maybe he wasn't going to come in and be a star, but how it would all fit together. And I don't even think he's been bad. From the little bits that I've seen at camp, he's been absolutely fine. But that absolutely fine hasn't got him any first team reps. He's not really making big waves in training camps. Like, I kind of think right now he's a little under the radar. And for him playing deeper than, expected, or that one might have thought, that might not be fourth quarter. That might just be up until halftime. That might be a little bit into the third quarter. It's just, he's a guy that I don't think everybody would have anticipated when this move was made, that he would be battling it out for a second, third string reps during the preseason at the cornerback spot for a team that did just draft 3 corners in the draft and then have to sign like 3 more in undrafted free agency. Him not being ahead of those guys early on, a little bit of a surprise.
I'm surprised neither of you went with Josh Gordon. And I know a lot of us probably look at it and say the writing on the wall, but I don't think if you asked everyone that they would say that, and that's why I'm just kind of curious. I think Dwayne Donald said, Josh Gordon should be playing all game and on special teams because that's the only way he's making the roster. I don't know if everybody's all the way out on Josh Gordon's outlook, maybe the same way we are. And so I was just kind of surprised because I think some people, there's still some belief there in what Josh Gordon can bring to the table. And I'm not saying a game setting may not be a bad thing for him. I
think it was the framing around just later than we think and kind of setting up expectations. Because even if you would have said, going into this, where was Josh Gordon at expected? You're still thinking best case scenario, he's wide receiver 4, 5, 6, right? And still that's a guy that's going to play later into the game. So, well, maybe he's definitely disappointed what even those expectations were. I mean, look at his press conference. I think I saw a comment about that too from JCB that said, do we think that he looked a bit uneasy during his presser? Absolutely. He just looked defeated. He looked like his energy was zapped. And not bad, not angry, just he looked like a guy that just kind of was just low energy on that particular day. And maybe it was a day thing, but my expectations are for Josh Gordon. They have been since training camp started, and even before. He's battling for a roster spot. That says you're playing deep into the second half regardless, and it just doesn't sound like he's looking or moving that well right now. So, he's not going to play longer than I expect, because I kind of expect him to play into the fourth quarter.
Hey,
I wonder
if
he's going to get a bunch of targets though. I wonder if they're going to try and get him a little bit of volume, just kind of see what they got there. Yeah.
If you guys want to do a couple of things, hit the subscribe button on this show, but also if you want to ask some questions, I think we're going to take a few questions here heading up to the preseason game before we get out of here. So feel free to ask a few questions here. Also, by the way, promo code KCSN gets you $100 in free bets on DraftKings Sportsbook. And obviously some legislation, some stuff has happened here in Kansas. It sounds like some things got approved today as well. So it's coming here in Kansas, in the state of Kansas. Promo code KCSN will get you $100 in free bets at DraftKings Sportsbook. So make sure you're using that promo code whenever you do sign up. So yeah, go ahead and leave some questions in the comments, and we'll start getting into some of those here today. It's preseason. We don't want to go full. Again, we're not breaking down. We're not breaking down the Bears.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. This guy he's going out of town this weekend, right? He won't be with you, Craig. He won't be with you, myself, and Tucker as we give you guys a live reaction to the preseason game. As soon as it's done, Kent won't be here. So he thinks, because he's on another little vacation, we're not taking this game seriously. Let me tell you something, buddy.
Here's the thing. If I happen to be on a boat during the post-game show, I want to come on and
Maddie and I and Tucker are just gonna have to see when it comes down to that. We're gonna have to see how we're feeling at that.
I think you should let me do a segment for a boat if I am indeed on a boat during the post-game show.
We'll see, buddy.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. All right, so Anthony Perkins, how many of our camp players get picked up by other teams when the 53-man cut comes? I think that's a great question. What you got, Maddie?
It's hard to say without knowing who's the cut players, right? But 6. I don't know. Just a random number seems realistic, seems plausible. I think that I just kind of thinking through some of the guys that I think that might get cut. I can probably come up with a good 3 to 4 that I feel good about, and then I'm throwing a couple extra wild cards in there. Well, actually, hold on. I'm walking this back now. Actually,
I think that's too many.
I think it's too many as well. I'm going to drop it down. I'm going to drop it down to 3 because I was kind of including practice squad and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, no, we're walking it back. We're going 3.
I think you could see you could see a wide receiver like a Justin Watson, a Josh Gordon, maybe
Corey Coleman.
I think those are some guys that could potentially get some looks. Maybe one of the running backs too. I mean,
Ronald Jones,
Derek Gore.
I think Derek Gore has a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, who knows what happens to Blake Bell? I think Blake Bell's safe. I don't think anybody along the offensive line is really going to get too many looks.
This is a question I think that we'll dive deeper into when we start doing some roster prediction stuff. But do we think the Chiefs can afford to keep Darius Harris and Jermaine Carter?
No chance.
Do you think both will make the roster?
No chance.
No, and I think that either one of those guys is getting picked up. Like,
that's what I was going with.
Special teams depth, yeah.
Mm-hmm. The special team stuff, like the secondary could have some guys that could sneak onto a roster too, depending on like if Chris Lamons makes the team, like that's pushing somebody out. And like one of my fears in a very deep roster with a lot of very intriguing, good football players is that the heavy hammer of special teams influences the bottom of that roster in a negative way.
It always does, buddy.
A heavy windmill from Tobe to keep Lamons over whoever is gone. Like for the first time, I don't think keeping a Chris Lamons or a cornerback of that level to just play special teams would never feel more defeating than this year, because you do have so many young guys, all of which that can play special teams. I get it. They're probably not as good at Chris Lamons as being a vice or a gunner, but they could be, or they could be good enough to go ahead and jettison a Watson and a Z Johnson, just one of these young guys to keep Lamons. This would be about as defeating as it possibly could be, I think, if it happened this year.
All right, so we got a question here from Dwayne Donald now. Do Blake Bell or Noah Gray have enough trade value that they could be moved if Fortson is healthy? What do you think, Craig?
Yeah, I do. Now, people aren't on the Blake Bell train. I think it's more likely that it's Noah Gray. I think, if the team see how they're using him like an H-back, you seeing the way that he moves, everything like that, I think you would see some teams that are maybe interested in him. That being said, I think they're keeping 4 tight ends. I think all 4 guys are making the roster. If they did last year, they got a better group this year. Like those guys have progressed even further. Even Noah Gray has progressed even further. I think they're keeping 4 tight ends.
I'm with you. I started off with the Noah Gray could be a practice squad candidate, and that the whole concept was I don't think you could keep 4 tight ends and 4 running backs this year. I think it's definitely shifted to keeping 4 tight ends and not 4 running backs. And even if you did have to make a move, I'm not sure Noah Gray has not surpassed Jody Fortson on the tight end depth chart. Different players, different body types, but just overall, I'm not sure that he hadn't surpassed Fortson by now. So now, does Noah Gray have any trade value? Probably not. He was a day 3 pick that really hasn't accomplished a whole lot in the NFL yet. So if you were trading him as the team that drafted him, you would essentially just be punting on what you thought his value was. You're not going to get better than what you just spent on him if you're the Chiefs. So from that standpoint, no, I don't think either one of them have any trade value.
The roster construction for this year is going to be so interesting because there's so many different ways it can go. And how many young DBs do you keep? Are you keeping 4 tight ends? If you're keeping 4 tight ends, who's getting cut? An extra tight end or an extra offensive lineman or an extra receiver? Michael Burton's a lock to make this team. So how does that shape up things? Defensively, okay, how many defensive tackles are you rolling? Every position, honestly, the linebacker position is confusing. It's wildly confusing for me because
you think so?
Yes, I do, because I don't know how many they're going to keep because of special teams. And actually,
sure.
The
I think there are 4 locks.
Yeah,
but
what after that? And how many do you keep? And
I'm with you.
Here's a question from Jason Thomas about the linebacker group, and this is one of the biggest enigmas questions. Haven't heard much about Mike Rose so far. Looking forward to him playing Saturday. What do you want to see from him? Matthew started off. I have some thoughts, but I'll you know what? I'll answer the question. I'll answer the question to start because I did get a chance to watch him, and I actually paid a little bit of attention to specifically to him when we were at training camp. So the game looked a little fast for him. I mean, obviously that's going to be the case for a lot of these guys at this point. He played a lot as like an overhang at Iowa State. His work in the box was a little bit shaky from when I saw it. He was kind of thinking a little bit too fast. And honestly, some of those, that fluidity and coverage ability that you saw in space hadn't really shown too much yet. But he's a big athletic kid. And like, there's definitely some value in that. So what do you want to see from him? I want to see him playing fast. I want to see the special team side of it because ultimately he doesn't really have a role on this defense in year one. He has a potential role on special teams. He's got to survive long enough to show some of the instincts, some of the coverage ability that, made him, I believe, the Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year at one point in his career. So he needs to just show a lot on special teams and play fast. I think those two things will give him a leg up in sticking around in some capacity. I could see him sneaking into the bottom of the roster. I still believe in the player, but I mean, he's just got a lot of question marks for me right now.
As the resident Mike Rose homer here, yes, what I've seen from him out of camp, and it's just been little clips, but he has looked pretty rough in some man coverage opportunities. There's been more than one highlight of him looking very stiff and slow to transition in some man coverage reps, which isn't something he did a lot at Iowa State. He definitely made, his hype via his coverage ability or his ability in space at Iowa State, but it wasn't in man coverage. It was usually playing zone or running kind of that deep hole, making a lot of plays on the ball from there with his eyes on the quarterback. Learning how to play in man coverage looks like it's been a learning curve. So I would love to see him get in there and get some reps against, some third, fourth string tight ends, third, fourth string running back, and just show that he's improving in man coverage. So that way you can start to see a way to carve out a role if he proves to be a good special teams player. Because right now we touched on it, Jermaine Carter, Darius Harris, these guys are already good special teams players. It doesn't matter if you're a good special teams player if you can't match their play on the defensive end at that point in time. So he needs to bring a little bit of both. I'm excited to see him in a game situations. I think linebacker is a spot that's kind of hard to shine in camp a lot, but he has not looked good from the little bit that we've seen so far.
I don't have any Mike Rose takes. I want to see him play teams. I want to see him play. I liked the little bit there I got to see of him in Iowa State, but yeah, I think he's clearly on the outside looking in right now. But as we talked about, like linebacker 5, that's pretty open right now. So he can play his way onto the roster.
Yeah, if they do keep 5, I think they keep 5, which is like, it's just, if they keep 5 linebackers, they keep Chris Lamons, then the Chiefs are losing one of those fun backs that we're really excited
they
about.
kept 6 linebackers last year.
I know.
So
it's
keep
just,
that in mind.
5 linebackers and a special teamer. Like, let's not shove him and a specialist. Let's not play him with the linebacker group. That's Dorian O'Daniel.
I am not sure. I don't think Dorian O'Daniel is on a roster. I don't believe. I think he got the. I don't think he's on a roster right now. Just saying.
Okay.
That says
we had
a lot.
Question.
Go.
Okay. Kyle Cook. Any chance that the Chiefs go down to 9 linemen to keep an extra skill player? I don't think so. I don't think with the health that this offensive line has seen as of late that Andy Reid would risk going down the 9 offensive linemen. Is it possible? Yes. It's just with the health of what this offensive line has been so far, I wouldn't be surprised to at least start the year with 10 offensive linemen.
Yeah. I will say this. This last year was the first year that Andy Reid kept 10 in Kansas City. It was 8, 9, 8, 8, 9, 9, 9, 9. So he was very comfortable with just keeping 9 for a long time. Then 2020 happened. And then Andy Reid went, no, we're keeping 10 last year. So I could fully get on board with what Maddie's saying there. Like, if push comes to shove, he's going to keep an extra offensive lineman in this scenario because he's seen how damaging that can be when you've got the best player in the world and you just can't keep him upright.
Here's the thing. So the only scenario, okay, so I'll run through my predictions. Jerick McKinnon and Ronald Jones, do both of them make the football team?
No.
Okay. That's the only way that they're keeping. And if they keep 5 receivers and if they only keep 4 running backs, which I tend to agree. Like I think there's a chance that they can kind of like, they might be able to keep McKinnon on a practice squad and just kind of put him on ice. Like I think they could potentially, I genuinely think they have a chance to do that. Someone would have signed him, I think. But you got to keep 5 receivers, 4 tight ends to keep 10 offensive linemen. And you got to ask yourself who the 10th offensive lineman is. Like right now, I got for my non-offensive lineman, I got Orlando Brown Jr., Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Andrew Wiley, Lucas Niang, Darian Kennard, Roderick Johnson, Nick Allegretti. So I guess Jaron Christian's the guy.
Matt is going to fight you about Jaron making the team.
No, it's Roderick Johnson making the team.
I had Roderick Johnson. I put Roderick Johnson on there.
Right, I know. Hard no.
Maddie's putting Jaron over Roderick.
Yeah, this is my prediction. This is my prediction.
I get it. I get it.
This is just calm down. Don't come after the wrong guy here. I think Jaron Christian's I think if they're keeping 10, it's Jaron. I think it's Jaron.
I guess my pushback is I think that Jaron Christian is 100% in there over Roderick Johnson. I'm saying Roderick Johnson's your 10th swing guy at best.
So why did Roderick Johnson get the first crack at left tackle?
Because they didn't want to disrupt the second team's continuity where Jaron Christian wanted to keep playing with the same guys he was going to play with. They wanted to get the guy that has no chance of playing with the starters in there, Roderick Johnson, out there because it was just a placeholder while Orlando Brown was there. I think that's how come Roderick Johnson, since Orlando Brown Jr. has been here, has already been designated like the 3rd string tackle on whatever side he plays on because he was never the guy. It was just a placeholder. Just a placeholder.
That's going to do it for the KC Laboratory. Thank you so much for listening. This was a very fun game preview edition. Craig and Maddie and
We're not doing predictions? What?
It's a preseason game.
Nope, close it out. Continue. I'm done.
Make sure to check out Craig, Maddie, and Tucker on the KCSN post-game show for preseason week 1. We will have a different setting for week 2. Also, make sure if you guys are watching right now, here in about 10 minutes, BJ and Nate Taylor's conversation from today will debut. So just stick around another 10 minutes, maybe, thumb around the KCSN channel before that preview here in about 10 minutes. It's a great conversation. Thank you all so much. We'll catch you later.
27-16.
22-13.